Hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another success story. So today we have Arindam and he's going to tell you all about his success on the IELTS test so that you guys can share in his success and learn from him. So Arindam, can you just share first of all who you are, where you're from, anything else that you want to
Yeah,
share with
yeah. My
everyone?
name is my name is Arindam Bhattacharya. I'm from India, currently staying in Bangalore, basically from West Bengal.
Mhm.
I am an engineer by profession, and I've done my MBA. Currently working as a product manager for one of the fashion retail house in India. So I wanted to take IELTS to for an immigration purpose, specifically for Canada. And for me, I had to score very high in IELTS because I fall in a very higher age group. So I'm 35 years of age,
That's not
and
too high. I'm 35 too, so that's not too high.
so I had to score more than 7.5 in all the sections. But I think it is CLB 9 as per as the Canada immigration is concerned. So the first time I appeared for IELTS was in March 3rd this year. So after preparing for a month or so, I thought that I would be able to crack IELTS because having had given GMAT and other competitive exam, I thought that it will be an easy task. But as it happens with everybody, uh, I scored well in listening and in reading. I scored I think 8 in listening, 7.5 in reading. Writing I got 6.5, and speaking I got 6. The reason
Mhm.
I got 6 in speaking because I haven't prepared much for speaking. I thought that I would be able to uh, do the section properly, but in that 2 minutes continuously we have to speak, right? In that phase, I spoke for I think 15-20 seconds or maybe more than that. But after that, I stopped because I thought I was running out of ideas, and I never had the practice of explaining the things, so it was not natural for me to
Mhm.
explain. So I was disappointed, and then again I took the exam on May 12th. So I thought this 2 months I will prepare. So I started reading newspapers. I thought that reading newspapers will improve my vocabulary. But I actually took notes, wrote the words, meanings of those, tried to frame sentences with it, but it did not help much. Again, when I took the exam the second time, I got uh, in listening I got 8.5, in reading I got 7, in writing I got 6.5, and speaking I got 7. So, but this time I ensured that in that 2 minute I would have spoken throughout. I didn't stop at all, so the examiner stopped me. But as I wasn't able to overcome that 6.5 barrier of writing, so then I went to a coaching center as well. But somehow the techniques were a bit different. And then I was browsing through YouTube, and I saw your videos. I think the one video that I liked most and that actually encouraged me was, I think you were talking about a lady who prepared for 6 weeks, and she boosted up her writing score from I think 6.5 to 8. So I thought maybe if I prepare for 6 weeks, it will help me. But I had around 5 weeks with me. So then every day I used to go through the videos that you had on your website. And I think you have one full 5-day class recording for that opinion essay,
Mhm.
which has got 5 classes, I think 30 minutes or 40 minutes each. So I diligently went through all those videos, and I used to see the success stories that you used to post, what the users were saying. And um, and I ensured that every week I would write at least 2 essays and 2 letters. So I did that for 4 weeks, and uh, I got my essays corrected by my local uh, coaching center, and there were minimal grammatical errors, but somehow they were giving me 6.5. So then anyway, I was actually every day listening to your videos and all. So what I found was that I actually liked your coffee can approach that you said, right? That the ideas have to be very simple and which can be communicated to your friends and you can defend those. So I this time when I got the topic as I think I got the topic as to reduce road accidents, speed limits should be reduced, but others have different opinion, and discuss both the opinion, both the views, and give your opinion. So I used very simple ideas. So I actually wrote against that. So I said, maybe we could put more cameras near the crossing, because people generally violate those crossings and they get and they face accidents. So I spent around 5 to 7 minutes in planning my essay, and then I used only two ideas, very simple ideas. And what I ensured is, in the body paragraph, the way you have mentioned, I explained them and I gave an example.
Mm-hmm.
And I used your trick of giving example which might not be true, might not be actually investigated, but saying that from sources, or this has been conducted by an agency and they have come up because of some survey, this is the results, this is the outcome. So that way I explained my answer. And I think I by heart on IELTS Advantage. I missed a little bit on in the conclusion part, because I wanted to have 1 or 2 minutes to go through the essay, and somehow I ran through the conclusion part. Otherwise, I might have got 0.5 more. But yeah, anyway, I think 7.5 is I will be satisfied with, because my aim was to get at least 7.
So you got 7.5 in writing
Yes.
after that. So from 6.5 to 7.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just summarize some of the things that helped you go from 6.5 to 7.5, because this will be helpful for other students. Before that, I want to touch on a few of the things that you mentioned. So you said at the beginning you were trying to read newspapers and you were frustrated because the vocabulary that you were learning, you weren't able to use that. So that's
Exactly.
really about the difference between our passive vocabulary and our active vocabulary. So
Yes.
our passive vocabulary those are words that we know. So those books behind me,
Yeah.
that they're full of words. I know what all of those words mean. However,
Yes.
there's a difference between your passive vocabulary and your active vocabulary, because active vocabulary is words that you use, you can use, you understand them enough so that you can use them. And everybody, whether they're a native English speaker or an English learner, has a much, much, much bigger passive vocabulary compared to their active vocabulary. So in order to activate words and move them from your passive vocabulary to your active vocabulary, you have to use them. Same as any other skill, you have to use those
Yeah.
words and think about how my boy, he's 4 years old, he's fluent in 2 languages. How did he get there? Because he just keeps using the language every day.
Yes.
He makes
Yes.
mistakes, he doesn't care, and he just keeps going on because he's constantly activating that vocabulary. So that's important for people, because often people get very frustrated. So a lot of people will email me and say, I don't know why in the speaking test and the writing test I can't get the words out. I know the words, they're on the tip of my tongue, but I can't say them. So realize that it is a normal thing to
Yeah.
experience that, but you can overcome it by activating that vocabulary. The other thing that you said was you were going to different teachers, local teachers, online teachers.
Yeah.
That is a little bit dangerous, because what's going to happen, and this is what happens with lots of people, is you're going to get very, very confused, because one teacher will say this, another teacher will say that,
Yes.
a third teacher will say something else, and it's like, just tell me one way.
I got frustrated that why, even if I am writing the way you are suggesting, they are giving me 6.5.
Yeah. So there's two things there. Number one, there are a lot of correct ways, because it's writing, it's speaking. There's no one way to write an essay. There's no one way to say a part two speaking answer. However, there are also a lot of people who are teaching it the wrong way. So it is you're going to get, it's very difficult for people to know who to trust. So that's my advice, is find one source, one school, one course, one teacher. It doesn't have to be me, but find one source of information. Because especially, you said that you were getting your essays checked.
Yeah.
What happens sometimes with me is I will teach students like for free on YouTube or something like that. And then they'll get it corrected by another teacher. And the teacher will say, oh no, that's all wrong. And the student's just like, why? Like, who do I trust? Again, that could be because the teacher just has a different style and is doing it correctly, but in a different way. But it could also mean that the person correcting your essay just doesn't know what they're doing, because there's I'd say most people teaching IELTS do not really know what they're doing, especially in certain parts of the world. Because, for example, you said your local teachers were giving you 6.5 when they corrected your essays, but not telling you which grammar mistakes you were making. If you're getting 6.5, you are making a lot of grammar mistakes. So if the teacher is saying, here, you got 6.5, but they're not telling you which grammar mistakes or which vocabulary mistakes or what mistakes you're making, then is that a good service? I don't think so. Because again, it's very frustrating, because it's a very stressful process learning how to do all of this. And it's a high stakes test. Like for you, a lot of people want to move to a different country, get the job of their dreams, their families are relying on them. So you want it to be as stress-free as possible. Because stress is not a great way to learn anything or to perform. Okay, so let's talk about how you went from 6.5 to 7.5, because there's some important things that you mentioned. Number one, you followed my advice and kept your ideas simple. Okay. So it's not an ideas test where the most complicated, high level, sophisticated ideas win and all the others lose, and you get a low score if you have simple ideas, and you get a high score if you have sophisticated, high level ideas. It's not an ideas test. It is an English test. Therefore, because it's an English test, you pick the ideas that are relevant to the question, but the ideas that you can clearly explain and support with examples. And if you do that, your coherence is going to improve, because everything is clear and easy to understand. B, your task response, your task achievement is going to improve, because it's very clear how you've answered the question and you've developed those main ideas properly. And also your grammar and your vocabulary also probably improved, because when you have a very clear idea about what your ideas are and how to explain them, then you're not having to think so much about everything. And if your ideas are clear, normally your grammar and vocabulary follows in that way. So someone who's getting 6.5, what we normally see is someone who has very complicated ideas. They haven't clearly developed them. They haven't clearly explained them. And their vocabulary and grammar is also very complex and complicated and full of mistakes.
So this time, sure that I will use very simple vocabularies. If I don't know anything, if I know there are complicated words, but if I don't know whether it grammatically fits in there, I will not use. So I
mean, what is better? Use a simple word that is correct or a complicated word that is wrong? Like,
I think simple, simple.
you know, like if you can use a complex word, a complicated word, use it if you can
Yeah,
use it correctly. But if you can't, like the example I was using recently with my students was in the World Cup, Neymar, he played terribly. One of the reasons why he played really badly was because he tried to do all these fancy tricks and
yeah.
and he got the ball taken off him every single time.
Yeah,
Whereas if you look at some of the French players or the Belgian players or the English players, especially someone like Harry Kane, he doesn't look good. He doesn't do
mm,
anything fancy, but
fancy.
he
Yeah,
scored more goals than anybody
yeah.
else, you know?
Yes,
So,
yeah,
you know, why is that? You know, simple, effective is normally much better than fancy and complicated.
yes.
It
That,
normally, especially with writing,
yeah.
especially with writing. So that's great advice, and thank you so much for sharing it with everybody. And what will you be doing when you get to Canada? Will you be working as an engineer there?
Yeah, I would be. So I would be working in as an engineer in the supply chain side because I've done my MBA in operations.
Hmm.
So I would like to join an organization which has a supply chain, and probably will take up warehousing and last mile.
Amazon. You can get a job for Amazon. I'm sure they
Yeah,
have lots of jobs in supply chain. They're taking over the world. All right.
yeah.
I hope they don't. I hope they don't start teaching IELTS because I'll be in trouble. So,
No, no, they just sell IELTS books.
yeah, they say I'll sell IELTS books. That's right. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another story. Anyway, thank you very much for sharing that with everybody. I really appreciate it, and good luck in Canada.
Thanks, Chris.
You're very welcome. Bye bye.